Cool, well, let's get started, please. So 1-1, lagoon upgrades resolution.
Sorry, your time, my watch just got all wonky.
6:22.
So this is a result of a discussion that had happened in the past, and it's basically a resolution that would request technical and financial assistance from Water Services Board to do a pilot study, RFP, to look at the alternate technologies for the lagoon upgrade. This would be 50-50 cost share, and it's up to $150,000. Sam did note in his comments that it was good to explore the other options and that those options will still continue, but we want to see if they would look at a pilot project. But they would require a resolution, and this would still be having to be approved at Water Services Board before it would continue.
And does this, that last issue that came up when the feds were here, does this help alleviate their concerns?
Some maybe, but I don't think so. I'm with you on that. I think this is moving forward. That's all this is.
This was
It's
their
looking at different ideas.
biggest point of contention was the looking at different technologies, right? I don't know, I thought we were gonna be having a resolution coming forward
That's what I thought as well.
to
Yeah.
move forward on
the
the whole lagoon
Yeah.
project
Yes.
as it sits, as per.
To make them happy,
Yes.
to
Yeah.
make sure that we're moving forward.
And on this, move this on this as well.
But this is separate. We already have that we're moving forward. What
Do
this
we?
is, yeah. What this is saying, we're still moving forward
Okay.
with the lagoon proposal, but this is saying we still want them to look at options of different technology.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay,
Did we pass the lagoon?
I think a while ago.
We did?
No.
Okay.
okay, because it made it sound like we hadn't.
We had, yeah, I thought we had.
didn't either.
I will confirm,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't think we had.
because it was always the intent to move forward as is, but this was just something if they would consider a pilot project to look at different technology.
Sure, can you?
I'll confirm for
can you
sure.
confirm, because
If
we
not, that will be included
Yeah.
as part of the resolution.
Sure,
Yeah.
that we're moving ahead,
Then
yeah.
we're moving ahead with the.
And can we write a letter to the feds and the province and to basically explain, like we can attach the resolutions, but then to explain what we are doing, so that it doesn't, they don't just click the clip of us reading a resolution, because then it's perceived as, oh, now they're doing something different.
Yeah, just so they
Yeah.
know that we're moving ahead, but we're
Yeah.
also looking at alternate technologies.
And I also thought we were gonna call the engineering firm, which we haven't done yet, where we had that conflicting report and follow up with that.
Yeah, that's.
I did reach out to a few times about that.
With donuts.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't wanna, I have no problems with calling on my own, but I think it's,
Everyone should hear.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm still ready.
Okay, alrighty, 3-1, place branding.
yeah, and thanks for letting me add this to the agenda. But I guess how this came up is at a CDC meeting or somewhere along the lines, there was discussion on place branding, and it was really where we were at. We as the town of the Paw potentially they're waiting for us to do something. And so I did a little bit of research, and I talked to that Linda Whitfield today as well, just to follow up. And I guess everybody else probably knows all this, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I guess there was a group put together back with the old council, and they brought in some consulting firm, I don't know their names, but and they asked this multi-discipline group or multi-community groups, OCN, RM, and the town on what the area was, and then they came up with all this branding.
Place branding.
Place
It
branding.
was actually through Tourism Manitoba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had, so again, I guess what they were looking for from us is what we are actually what are we doing with it? Like it's like, are we moving forward with it or not?
Well, I'll fill you in on what's happened over the last while. A while ago, we had several meetings with Travel Manitoba about the branding. And what we were waiting for at that time was word from OCN. And then we had another meeting with them, and they said OCN was kind of yes, no, whatever. but they didn't tell us. Then there were some concerns that the RM was not listed. And the RM is listed in a different way, but it was not included in the banner. And that Clearwater Lake was the main item. So at that time, there was, we met at the Wiscana that day with them, right?
Yeah, February
And
27th.
so what we told them then is that the information, and that we were just too busy at that moment, or at that time, to look at it. And then we'd be getting them back to them at a later date. And our branding is somewhat complicated because it is just not the PAW community, it's the TRI thing with OCN, the PAW, and the RM. And so they've left, and until today, this is kind of the first we've heard back from them.
Well, again, I guess I brought it up because we have a CDC that's potentially
Yeah.
supposed to be working on something, or somebody on that committee has actually got this on their list to do something with, and it appears, and she did explain that, Bill? She said that they did meet with OCN, everything was good. They did meet with the RM, and the RM wasn't concerned because she told me about how the whole, how this thing happened, or how you developed it, is that you're not marketing the PAW, or you're not marketing OCN, you're branding the area. And,
Right.
and if you put RM in there, it just becomes too busy and it doesn't its right. And how they developed this whole brand was based on, you know, the jewel was the lake, and the blue was for the water, clear
Yeah.
water, and then the, you know, the eagle thing or whatever they have, I can't even remember what it looks like, was, you know, for the First Nations and our surrounding areas and those type of things.
Yeah, that's exactly what they told us too.
So there was just, so they produced the pamphlet, correct?
The brand.
They
The brand.
produced the brand,
On the-
then they produced a video of the area. And it showed like Clearwater, different things and everything else. And you're right, Andre, about the RM part. It's not listed, but it is listed in a, like, it's not part of the main program, but it's part of the continuation, like the Saskatchewan Delta, River Delta is not listed in it, but it is an ongoing concern in the whole thing. Like, there's many steps to the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I guess from what she told me, it didn't appear to be a concern from the RM.
Okay.
Back on December 3rd, there was so much I remember, but back on December 3rd at noon, they gave us a presentation.
I wasn't at that
Yeah,
presentation.
I don't
that's why-
remember, I didn't keep notes of who was, but it was here and it wasn't very good, the presentation. And the general feeling
That's
of
the-
council afterward was, we weren't interested at this time.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, I remember that too.
Right.
You?
And then in February for festival, Bridget and Colin were in town and we had lunch with them. And at that time, council, we basically said we're gonna leave it for the time being. We put it off for a few months until after we speak with OCN and the RM. And I don't think we've never met with them again about it. If it's something that we wanna pursue, then maybe we should pursue the discussion. As I recall, and again, there's been so much, as I recall, there was an expectation that we would use the logo and remove like our adventure territory from things. Is this part of it?
She told me the same thing, is that it has nothing to do with that logo. That logo is the PAW. So this is an area brand, not the PAW Manitoba brand. So, you know, you could use it, she said, because like, she was saying like Portage did, they liked it so much that they went ahead and then adopted it as their new logo. But Flin Flon did, right? Flin Flon's got some other, I don't even know what she
Wet
told
and
me.
Wild.
Yeah, so this is an area brand, not
Yeah.
because it's a tourism thing and it's to attract tourism. And again, that was the whole idea of it, I guess.
There was a financial commitment too, wasn't there?
$10,000 from all three, right?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
10,000
I don't
from all
really
three.
remember.
It's
They
10.
wanted 25,000 per year.
No,
No.
it's $10,000 per year for 3 years divided by the three parties. And that's the commitment, and that's where then they release and start the advertisement campaign. Right now, we're not getting any of that. We got the logo kind of made, but we're not getting the rest of the release, I guess. So that's once they show the financial commitment you know, then that's when everything kind of rolls out and finalizes.
The full scale
Yeah.
advertising.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, and then she mentioned that it wouldn't happen till,
Probably not till the spring of 2020.
well, in September or something.
Yeah.
She said Thompson is rolling theirs out in September, Flin Flon just rolls theirs out. They're looking, yeah,
Simplon did a nice job on theirs. We were up there last Thursday, and Randy and I took a drive through the whole community. And they've got the banners up on their street lights and everything else. Wet, water and wild or something? Water,
Yeah.
something like that. And then they had lots of paraphernalia to give out and sell and everything else. And
wind in the wild.
when
Yeah, it's
What is
something
that?
wild, remember it's
Yeah.
W and wild.
and it's wind.
Wind?
W-I-N-D.
And, yeah, they rolled out, like, they spent a pretty fair buck getting their stuff done up, so.
I know Clear Lake did it, and it's a really nice job that's been done in Clear Lake on it.
I think that's one of the ones in here, right?
I believe that
Yeah.
is, yeah, like, it's just, and when you go through Clear Lake, it's very prominent throughout all of Clear Lake.
So a little bit of the CDC discussion pulled into this, so one of the actions, and I would have sent you guys the action list, but I accidentally didn't send it, but I will as soon as I get home. The Jerome wants to come and actually, because he's kind of charged up with that, what do we do with that logo? Like, are we interested in moving forward with this, or we don't want to do this anymore, or? And then we should let Travel Manitoba know if we're not wanting to do anything. I mean, it seems to me it's successful everywhere else, and, you know, you only hear positive things about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea. I hate the logo.
You don't like the logo?
I
No.
think it's ugly as sin. I don't like the logo, but that's my, you know, everybody has their own interpretation
For sure,
of art,
yeah,
right? It's not a picture I would buy, but I like the idea.
Yeah, and I guess from,
The advertising aspect.
Yeah, well, the three
Yeah.
communities
Yeah.
trying to do something together, and, you know, I like that.
Concept is great.
Yeah,
The
because
concept is great.
if there was a chance to rework the logo, well, I would be interested in that.
well, they said, yeah, I mean, if you want to make some tweaks to it or whatever. Remember, I guess how, I mean, you might have known how it was made. They brought in like a big group of people.
They did a
They
big,
facilitated this
Focus.
big,
Yeah.
meeting, like it was an all-day place branding session. There was 2 different meeting sessions. I think it
And-
happened at the Visitor Information
And I don't think
Center.
you'd have to duplicate any of that.
No, I don't think so either.
Just the
I
logo.
think just do some changes to the logo, man.
But who inputted in the logo?
What's
those
else?
people.
Yeah, so I'm saying, so now you're just, if there's any, because I'm assuming some counselors were on the meetings?
I believe so.
So-
I wasn't there, so I don't know
So
who
now-
was there, but there was all, Crystal was there for sure. I know there was,
Ryan?
there was, maybe, yeah, I don't know, but then there was a bunch of business people.
The only reason why I mention is
Yeah.
now we're at a risk of offending people, because if we all got together and all agreed on it, and now because this group of people doesn't like it, and then now we change it and then say, yeah,
Yeah,
we're all
and then
on board.
3 years down the road, somebody else said, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the nature of the beast.
For sure.
Linda told me that, well, this Linda Whitfield told me that in all of the places they're doing this, council doesn't get involved in this, other than say it's good.
Right, Jim, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, like, I'm fine with, I would like to move ahead with it. I think we've kind of missed the boat for 2019, but I think if we were to be able to get behind this for 2020, I think it would be a good thing to get behind, for sure. Especially since we're going, the point of it is to go so hard on Clearwater Lake, right? That would be my biggest reason for wanting to wait till 2020.
Yeah, I think we go ahead with it, and I think by looking at some of those numbers, we looked in that other report, and how little we spend on economic development.
Yep.
I mean, $10,000 over the next
3
3 years really is a drop in the bucket for, and in 3 years, if you wanna change the logo, then whatever, but I think we'd stick with the logo. The only thing I would like to see, and I wasn't at those meetings, but for the 10,000 over the 3 years, I'm sure it wouldn't be much for this Linda person to just send us an email just saying for the 30,000, this is what we produce, this is what advertising you get, this is everything that.
These people come up at any time. If we want them to come up and redo the presentation and whatever, and we want to sit and talk, they're willing to come, that's what they told us.
I would at least like to have a discussion with the group about the potential of changing the logo.
Yeah, I'm not a
I
big
really
fan of the
would.
logo either, but,
Yeah. So I'll ask him to come up again then?
yeah,
Yeah, we're targeting next year, you know, if that's what.
yeah, we'll target for spring next year.
Or whatever they say.
And
Who
it'll
comes
fit in with our downtown stuff because like we're getting the planters out this year and I talked to Jen today and they're gonna be doing the hanging baskets and those things and if we're gonna do this, then we'll do the banners on the poles and like it'll all fit in with next year, right?
We're doing the hanging baskets again?
Yeah, next year, she said, yeah.
Okay, so will we request a meeting?
Yeah,
So who does that? I should.
I would.
You will?
Yeah,
You'll do
it's
that?
admin. I set up the meeting with her to come and appear before council to discuss what you get for the 10,000 each year. And if the logo is up for debate.
Yeah, I don't know, like if, does all of council need to be at this discussion? Because I'm thinking it might be more worthwhile if 3 or 4, and then a couple from the RM and a couple from OCN, and beat this up one last time and see if we can come up with a decision.
Yeah, that's fine, I'm fine with that.
But that would, rather than
Okay,
just meeting for the sake of meeting.
who do you
I'd
guys
like to be
want?
involved in that.
Yeah, I'd like to go, voice my opinion on that one.
Mary?
The other thing I'd like to know is, have either of the other communities ponied up the cash?
Well,
Has it worked?
nobody has.
Nobody has,
No.
okay, no, I was just wondering if we're the lone holdout on this or anything.
No,
Well, I think it's not moving forward though because of us, so.
Okay.
Everybody else is ready to go.
Okay,
Or may have passed a resolution that says,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, could we find that out? Can we
Yeah.
find out if the
I'll
other
note that
communities
down.
have passed a
Yeah.
resolution?
okay.
You're not wanting to be on that?
Well, I don't know how many you need, like, it doesn't
We're
really
sure.
matter to me. For sure, I'll do that. Again, I just taken this from, I knew nothing about it till last week. From our meeting.
Okay. To be determined. All righty. Meeting with CDC.
Okay, so we had a good meeting on June 18th, so everybody knows that Ms. Valentine has tendered her resignation and she's moving on to maybe greener pastures into Winnipeg and back to where she came from, so we thank her for her support over the last little while. And then we've had some discussions and with regards to what to do next. So there's a couple of things that I think we wanted to talk about is, first thing is maybe, and Trevor can hop in anytime he likes here, is that I think we should, it was suggested that we should have a meeting with the CDC, the town of the Pas, and the senior staff, and even the DMC to really lay out some alignment on where we want this to go. So we don't have any confusion going forward. And, I'm willing to facilitate a bit of a workshop, even if we have to decide what's going so well, wasn't going so well, and what we need to do to improve the performance of not only the CDC, but if there's some alignment with the DMC.
Yeah, and then just to add on that, if council has, mayor council has, we voted to fund the CDC going forward, and then I've heard of, discussions or talking about the DMC and whether they're getting the bang for their buck, and I think if it's, if we put our support, for the CDC to, help run be the economic driver here, I think we need to align DMC in with that as well. And with the resignation of our executive director there, then I think this is a good time to maybe align everything together so it makes sense. And then most importantly, I think get everybody on the same page. If we're saying yes, then, you know, we're for the CDC, then I think we need to make sure we're all aligned that way and the support is there. Not just financially, but, you know, just with what we say, how we say it, like just, we need to make sure that we're all in line there. And I think this is a good opportunity to do that, so.
I think that'll give a lot of comfort to everybody that sits behind that table with the CDC. I think everybody needs to be a champion going forward on all of these issues. And I think, yeah, I don't think a meeting to get everybody together and on the same page is a bad idea at all. I'm down for that.
Yeah, so, and again, I'll send you guys the notes from that meeting. I guess the first thing I'd like to know is what would be a good time for us to get together. Obviously sooner than later, because we're in a complete stall now. Wednesday is Kim's last day, and we have an exit interview planned for her tomorrow with myself and Danny from the DMC. But you know, I guess, you know, the sooner we can get together and decide how we want that position. If it needs to look different, it for sure needs a different structure, and in my opinion, anyway. And it also the job description or the role requires a major, I think, update on what we expect from that job, so that it's clear. You know, as much as I believe, you know, just throwing it out there, you know, we haven't really talked too much about it, but, you know, I think an office in this building would be more suitable for that position than to be isolated in another area. Depending on who you get, I guess.
Yeah, we own the building, just so I'm not speaking about that. I don't agree with the DMC and the CDC becoming one, because as has happened over the last 2 years, the DMC has been the forgotten child. There was things that the DMC had asked Kim to do, and basically nothing was done, and it was ignored. Now, the DMC, it's protected through bylaw of the town of La Pas, and the 25% of the funds through the accommodation fee go to the DMC to promote tourism in the community. We've reached a situation in our community where we have no tourist bureau as of Wednesday. Kim's done Wednesday. So we have a situation this summer of our community not having a tourist bureau, and the CDC has to take some responsibility in that, as does the DMC, right? But as it was explained to us by somebody that Kim didn't work for the DMC, she worked for the CDC. So, you know, it didn't work. The relationship wasn't good. And I think the DMC was hurt by it. Nothing was met. The future of the CDC as well, I don't think it can, I think the discussion of the Kelsey Planning District will have to come into play at some point, because the Kelsey Planning District will be and should become the lead planning organization in the community. So the future of the CDC to me seems tenuous at best.
I don't see how they relate. The
Well,
planning district is based on bylaws and zoning, and that doesn't really further the development of our communities, right? In my view, yeah, I just don't see how they correlate.
We had a discussion on land use at the Kelsey Planning District that will have a huge and significant impact on the town of Paul. So the Kelsey Planning District is working on providing the location and the environment for growth. I guess somehow the CDC would need to be involved in filling those spots.
Yeah.
Because there's too many C's. The Kelsey Planning District, right, is the planning engine for the region.
For sure it is. Yeah, no, definitely, and I think it should be. I totally agree that it's.
But they can't work apart.
And I think
They need to work together.
And I think there's good continuity there already, because if you look at the actions that are going and the last discussions, Rod Brzezinski is sort of providing those updates to the CDC, right? So the CDC is taking that information, and I mean, nothing official, but he is kind of one of the last things we talked about at that meeting was we didn't need an update from Rod.
He's excused himself from a lot of the discussions.
Yeah, he has.
And again,
But it's almost like we're working against that group then. Because it's the same thing, like, I don't know if maybe I just don't understand, but we have a community development corporation that's supposed to be working on development and bringing in, and then we go out and do our own thing on our side. And I think that Kelsey Planning District is doing what Chad said, but it's even when we look at bringing in developers, like, when we have a developer come in, we should be pushing them towards the CDC and saying, here's our engine that drives this growth, and we participate in that committee through myself and Trevor, but we almost are competing with that group. That's how I sense it.
and you're right. Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all, Andre. We are competing with that group. And like, we're going to have a teleconference here in about an hour with a developer on developing that Bell Avenue property. The CDC has been here for 3 years. Like, it's been 3 years since the mill had their issue, right? It isn't Johnny on the block. It didn't just show up. We got elected 7 months ago. So you have one group that's been here for 3 years and has done almost nothing as far as it relates to new development. And you've got a new mayor and council that within 7 months has contacted a developer who's talking about building upwards of 4 24-unit apartment blocks. Why should I have to bird dog for the CDC,
Well, I don't think you do.
right? And if I don't,
But it is our group to manage.
I get that. But and this is where the discussion comes that gets unpleasant, because sometimes I don't believe everybody is as altruistic as they could be. And I have absolutely nothing to gain by picking up the phone and saying, hey, would you be interested in building some properties here? And that's not true of everybody on the CDC. It just isn't.
Why do you say that?
Well, because we have somebody who's a very interested developer on the CDC. So why is it after
We
only...
just finished listening.
I get that, but why is it after 7 months, we have somebody ringing, who's gonna phone us tonight? Whereas
We could place the blame on.
But for
the
3
former
years,
mayor.
Trevor.
Yeah, we could
But-
place the blame on the former.
But that's got
mayor.
nothing to do with the CDC.
For 3
Sure
years,
he does.
the
He was the
property was
chair.
tied up by a receiving home. It just got untied from that.
It's not our only property.
No, I realize that, but we're picking on one specific piece of property here, and, you know.
Most CDCs
Well,
work
we're
with
not picking one.
the mayor and council, they just call up the CDC, hey guys, this is the land here, just so you know, you guys could contact the developers, like, and I don't know what happened before, and the thing, I wasn't privy to any of the meetings, but again, we talked about the past all day long, you have 2 people there representing it. I mean, if I notice, if we have the piece of land and nothing's happening, back to the reports, guys, what are we doing? What's the holdup here? How come have we contacted anybody? You said you're gonna contact 4 people.
Yeah, but
You haven't-
Trevor, just a second.
What?
Just wait. That developer never came to us and said that he would develop, but he went across to OCN and is going to tie in with them to develop. So why wouldn't he come to us and say, we can develop? Why wouldn't he come to us?
Because taxes and it's cost too much money.
No, it's not taxes.
Then what is it then?
This developer's coming, taxes aren't a situation,
What developer are you talking about?
Kenner Construction.
What? You lost me, man. What developer are you talking about that wants to go across?
Well, there was an announcement.
There was an announcement made
Okay.
Right,
that Alan Gibb
Yeah.
and the PVDC and
Glen Ross.
Glen Ross are gonna entertain building a 24 apartment block in the pond. So if he's gonna why wouldn't he come to us, being on the CDC, and say, I can do this for you too? But he didn't. He never came to us. He's the housing guy in the CDC. And he never came to us and said, our company will look at this.
Because he didn't even know the land was even available.
He knew the land was
He never even
available.
knew the land was, how does he even know the land was
That's-
even available? know.
Oh, yeah, no, he did.
I mean,
He did,
I don't know.
Trevor, he did.
So he's on it, he's spending his time to solely, just for his own interest.
I don't
That's what
know,
you're trying to say.
I don't know, I
That's
never
what you're
said
trying to
that,
say.
I never said
You
that.
are.
I guess,
That's exactly what you're saying.
okay, if I can, guys, so this is clearly this is a sensitive issue. So my issue with the CDC is they have been here for 3 years. And when we first got elected, I got copies of all the minutes that I distributed to every member of council because the minutes weren't coming forward before for whatever reason, I don't know what that is. And we as a group, we reviewed those minutes many times. And there was a recurring theme throughout those minutes that a significant amount of attention was being paid to OCN. It caused concern with this group because OCN doesn't contribute to the CDC. The town of the Pas was the major funder and the RM threw some money in, but the focus was on what seemed to be a lot of activity on OCN. And I know at the time, when we first started talking about this, that was a concern for council, right?
Right.
Right.
So that's kind of how we got to where we are.
I don't disagree, but my frustration is that we all voted to fund them this year, correct?
Yeah,
We
so-
all voted.
And we
So
did.
then, but you can't vote and say yes, and then go and, cause whatever the vote is, right? We're all representing what the vote was. So, but you can't go and say, I disagree every single time, because what are you doing? You're undermining.
Who's disagreeing? You disagreeing?
You're just saying that the CDC isn't working because the person that's the head of housing is developing in other places, basically is what you said. You didn't say those words how I
We
said
still
it. That's
passed
what
in
you
our
said.
budget the money to go forward to the CDC, did we not? We still passed it forward.
I know, but then on the other hand, we're pulling the rug from underneath us.
Exactly.
How? When? How?
Because we're talking about doing completely different things, the things that should be done
Most-
through the CDC.
Most CDCs are run and chaired by the mayor and a councillor or two. There's a reason for that. There's a reason. So you decided to step back, that's fine, and now two of us are there, and now it's like, okay, let's see what we can do to pick, even though we voted yes to go forward, right? And most work really well, and you already mentioned one time before, most of the times a lot of the times that it doesn't work well is when we do this. We get into the business of things that we don't know what we're talking about, right? But most of us don't know how to run an economic thing. These people do. So we either trust them, right, or not, or we say that the person's there just strictly, for sure, obviously he'd want to go make more money. Who wouldn't want to? But does that mean that he wants the other place to go die? That goes for everybody, right?
And I think also you gotta keep in mind though, and I'm not trying to deflect blame or anything on others, but what, they did accomplish things. So the CDC.
I said you didn't.
No, I don't, no, but her did.
I did.
But, so if you do look at what they've done over the 3 years, they were working on things, whether those priorities lined up with our priorities or not, but they were working on stuff, right? They were working on the aerospace, and they were working on whatever they happened to be working on. So I get that, but we've been on the committee for 30 days. Like,
I'm not officially even on yet.
2 meetings. We really haven't even had a chance to even start helping moving it forward, to getting the details we are. Again, I don't sense that there's people in that group that are in for personal interest, that specific personal gains. I think that the people that are leading,
Didn't say that.
Well-
Didn't say nothing about personal gain.
so,
All I said, Andre, is that why wouldn't he have came to us, knowing that we wanted to do this? And say, I can develop this in your community also.
Instead of going to the council or OCN and talking to.
but I do also know that there's concerns with, and that's on the CDC list, where we don't have, or we need a bylaw on condominiums. We want a bylaw to promote building and development. And review this whole levy thing with us. But those are actions on the CDC's list to come to council, which we want to meet with.
There's no problem with that, none whatsoever.
Right, so is it, I guess I'm maybe reading too much into it, is this sort of what they want to get done first versus, I mean, if somebody, if you would have sent a developer to the CDC and
Well,
said,
first of all, and maybe Randy or Herb can correct this, when it comes down to designing a policy on condominiums, it would be a town thing through a planning development, right?
Yeah, you're just, the bylaws are out there,
Right.
you're just adopting it.
Yeah,
So it's already there.
but what we're saying is that the CDC is trying to promote, or attempting to promote growth and building, and they're not doing the bylaw bill. But as a arm of helping us move things along, they could suggest, this is what should be in a bylaw, or this is what you could include. It's up to us as a council
Exactly.
to decide whether that's right or not. So do we want to start from zero and say to them, if they say, well, we don't want you to worry about a bylaw, then we'll just say that.
That's why I asked the question, is how long the Kelsey planning thing was. Because an individual there said, well, the first thing is for developers to come in, we need to really clean up the stuff and have that stuff together, because it's apparently it's a mess for when they're coming in. That's why I asked the question, so that when I go back to the CDC and say, yeah, apparently it's gonna be a year, or just before, or before that, that's why I asked, because we're talking about that.
Well, how this all came about, and you gotta back up to that, is that a minister approached her at a meeting, knowing that we wanted to build. So he brought it forward, right? We have property for him to go ahead, right? So now he's gonna come in and do this. It may not even fly, it may not go. But my point in it is we have a person on the CDC who is looking after what we want to do. And we gave them that directive when we first came on council. One of our 6 things was to look at building in the community. But that person never came forward to us. So through the grapevine, we hear that they are going to do it differently with somebody else.
Well, the chief announced it at a meeting.
The chief announced it at a meeting.
Yeah.
So, no,
I don't even know, where's he
I don't know
building
what
it?
we're talking about yet.
Where's he building it? On OCN?
no, he said in the town of the pond.
I don't know, I don't even know,
Well,
honestly, I don't know why we're talking about this if there's no, it's just all hearsay, like, I don't
Well,
wanna.
Whatever.
no,
No.
it's not hearsay. If I stand up at a council meeting and I say, free jelly beans for everybody in the pod, right? Well, then, you better get some jelly beans out there. The chief has stood up at a meeting and said that they've entered into an agreement of sorts with Alan Gibb and Glenn
PBDC.
Ross and PBDC to build a 24-unit apartment block. That's not at a chief of
Okay,
council
no.
meeting, right? That's
So
not,
what I'm getting at, what land
that's-
on, what land is it on?
I don't know.
What land, I'm assuming, well, if it's a chief and council, who's?
I don't know.
It's probably, so what I'm getting at, is probably TLE land or some sort of like that, or whatever land it is, their land, and the taxes are probably cheaper, which is point 2 or 3 about a discussion or presentation about the tax levy. So if a guy can build something and only have to pay this amount of tax, where are you gonna build it? Which is what we've been taught, that was the big contention about during the election, what was that stuff and how to promote development. And people argue about it and whatever, and now here we are. So, I mean, I think that's, you know.
So, as it relates to the CDC, right, the meeting is a good idea, right? As it relates to the combination or the merging of the two, I personally don't agree with it. We can talk about it at that meeting.
Yeah, no, for sure,
Okay.
that was the whole idea of it, like and again, it's not so much that, it's just to make sure, Herb, that we are getting what we want to get from that position more. Now, whether you deliver it or not, depends on who we get, right? But it's really, that's the whole idea of it.
But the frustrating thing is that if we're, I mean, whatever, we all voted, it's almost comedy now.
Yeah.
We've already voted to say, yeah, go ahead, yeah, CDC, you're good, we'll give you the fully funding, and there's still 2 or 3 of us that are just, well, you know, you guys aren't doing this, you guys, it's a pointless, the whole format is garbage, and so now we'll find another way, it seems like we've been doing from the start, to kibosh it. And to me, that's just not the way we do it. We support it, and then let the results show for itself. If the results are 0 and it's absolute garbage, then I'll be the first one to put my hand up and say, this is not working, this is not garbage. And I don't wanna hear the last 3 years, him and I haven't been on the last 3 years. In a year's time, and we've said this before, it's still garbage and it's still garbage, I'm gonna be part of it, part of that. But to be part of something that's really not being supported, then what, like, why am I wasting my time going to the meetings, right? And we're the biggest ones to, and I know whatever liability, legality, I'm still not on the committee. I'm still not on it. If we were really for this, with a resolution done up, the CDC doesn't care about the bylaw whether or not I am. Why couldn't we have done that real quick? But we did. I'm still not official member. I'm here as a guest.
Again, that's not the town of the Paw's fault. That's the CDC's fault. The CDC canceled a meeting we had scheduled last week to review the agreement. And we were prepared to review the agreement, move forward, make you anointed with the rest of you. That had nothing to do with us.
Well, our executive director, our main lead on it, she resigned. So
Well, but that's, you lost a staff member. That's all that
we're also
happened.
only staff member.
But they didn't have one 3 years ago. So
And I'll take the blame for that. I canceled that meeting, because, and I didn't realize that's what we were doing that night. It was just to rely on Trevor, because I would have came down and done that. So I was the one that canceled that, because Kim was leaving, and I had to get other things in lined up to get her lined up to have a plan to leave, so.
The issue with support as well. I've spoken with the developer. We spoke about the clinic back around December or January, if I check my notes. I don't think I've even said hello to Kim in months. So as far as undermining them, if you're looking at me, it ain't me. Now, have I been their biggest fan or cheerleader? Absolutely not. But I haven't been out there saying, these guys are dirt either.
And that's the same thing we had on there, though, Herb, as well, is that, you know, we did have on our list, and Kent wasn't there, is what are we doing with the clinic? Because we're having the same discussions, and they're having the same questions. Because if you've seen I don't know if you've seen the emails going around about the doctor recruitment. It was on and off, nobody really knew what was going on, and I think that's also created some confusion, because I don't think both sides know what exactly is going on. And, you know, as much as we're waiting for them, if we think that we're doing something to help them along, we should actually approach that area as well.
Yeah.
And it's not, I mean, Kim as the executive director or whatever their role was, I think there's leads there that, you know, Rod and Kent were kind of the main clinic people.
Yeah, as it relates to the clinic, I'm gonna go Plan A and Plan B. So Plan A was the $25 million dream, let's call it that, right? Never ever did we say to stop planning Plan A. We never said that. When this council and myself got involved, it was to deal with Plan B for a clinic in the Uptown Mall in Shane's spot. And everybody agreed that it was probably something we could achieve fairly quickly in government speak. And the other one, if Kent and the crew want to continue working on that business plan, then by all means carry on. Who wouldn't want that dream in our community, right? But in the meantime, as it was said, when we asked Helga and we spoke to a couple of others, if we got approval for Plan A, the Dream Clinic, how long would it take? Everything going well. Not one person said it would take less than 4 to 5 years. Not one. That's with everything lining up. So we are still of the opinion that we could get the Uptown Mall Clinic running within months.
And I think that's a better solution. Right.
So where we're at with it right now, we're waiting for the RHA to get back to us with the floor plan. That's where it's at.
But again, it's us that provides the direction to the CDC, so if we want them to be working or assisting with that, or do we want them to work on the 25-year plan, Dream Clinic, because that's a direction what we should be giving them.
We did. They were well aware of that. I did speak.
To keep doing that?
To keep doing what they're doing.
Well, that's not on that wasn't on our priority of our list that we gave them.
When Rod and Kent and I spoke, we had said, we'll work on this. This will be ours, Plan B. You guys carry on doing what you do with Plan A.
I know, but that's not what we asked them to do, though. We asked them housing, senior resource, and commercial land use, attraction of new business, and marketing the PAW and newcomer settlement.
There's, again, Audrey, there's probably some overlap. That's all it probably is.
But that's the thing, is so when it came to that when it came to that commercial land use, the clinic, that's where we stopped. Well, where I think the confusion is, again, we're 31 days into being on the CDC. They're waiting, they were not sure where to go next. That's what I'm taking from the
Yeah,
meeting.
then there's some confusion.
But Kent wasn't there, or Rod wasn't there either.
No, we had never told them to stop planning, ever.
But do we want them to plan that though?
Well, who doesn't want that clinic?
No, I know, but if we only have a limited amount of resources, and we've given them these priorities, and we want to get some stuff done in the next year, is that where we want their efforts to be? Or would we rather, because I think that up-down clinic, and I believe everybody else does, thinks it's a good idea.
Yes.
Then why would we spend a bunch of time and effort on something that we,
It's at least 4 or 5 years old.
yeah.
Well, the reason.
But I think you still have to stay connected in that.
Yeah, like it's.
Well,
when-
yeah, that's fine, it's like I said, but it wasn't a priority provided.
No.
It's not a priority we've given them, and so again, it goes off track where we've got Tri-City and
Yeah.
whatever, aerospace and whatever else was going on. That's not something we want our CDC to be working on, although it sort of does fit with growth of the communities and stuff like that, but it's, if we want them to work on this, that's what we should have them doing.
What needs to happen, right, and we're learning this, albeit hard, the province of Manitoba is changing health delivery in this province. Shared Health is now the lead organization. We may very well want that clinic, and we pressed it hard last week,
Yeah.
that you can't proceed with your shared health unless you write a check for some capital. We hit them hard on that many, many times, and they heard us. Now that clinic, Plan A, the Dream Clinic, fits perfectly with Shared Health's vision. It fits perfectly. But in the meantime, we've got people who are sick today,
Yep.
right? So there's no reason in my mind, why the two can't happen at the same time. Right?
And again, I think the CDC is supporting that, which is not on our priorities, but they did all that work on the doctor.
They've spent a lot of money and they've done a
Yes.
lot, right? So I think that should be something we should be continuing with. But you absolutely have to have Shared Health on the same page.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're gonna get that right now. And without Shared Health on the same page, you're wasting your time.
Yes. So to get back to where we originally started with this, and I guess what we're looking for is I need a date to set up, to see if we can find a date to work on this alignment and also ensure that, you know, we're gonna be funding the positions to move forward. I mean, we've gotta try, if we're gonna go out and recruit for somebody after our meeting, you're not gonna recruit with a half a salary.
Yeah, well, again though, right?
That's a DMC discussion,
Yeah.
I realize that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, why wouldn't, you know, if we're trying to promote and market, you know, destination marketing, provide a grant to do those type of things, almost automatically?
Yeah, well, from
I
the.
think I think what they're after though is more of an insurance of if they're putting in that money, they're getting something back for it too. They're not just putting in the $25,000 and going, okay, you keep doing what you're doing. They also want to see where this person is working for the DMC as well as the CDC.
I completely agree. And, but I can tell, I'll be brutally honest, that position was not managed at all, zero. I would be embarrassed if people knew how that was managed there. I mean, simple management processes and employee processes were not there, absent.
It's just a matter of everything's got to be clarified and spelled out.
Hey, you gotta be able to know how to book time off.
Yeah.
You can't have 3 bosses in your job description. Like, come on. It's pretty simple that it was not very well managed, and I think that, you know, whether it was Kim or whoever else there, it's important that we get a good review on making sure we all want, and when I say, you know, town of the paw, like the mayor, council, but senior staff need to really be involved in the discussions on where we want that position to be and what it should look like. Because I don't know if anybody's read the job description lately, but it's quite a read. And if anybody wants to read it, I can email it to you. Anyway, so I guess all I'm looking for right now is a date. So, and the sooner the better, because
We do the week of the 8th,
When's our council meetings in July?
The 8th and the
8th and the
22nd.
22nd.
I don't think this is an hour meeting.
No.
No, for sure. It's not a before.
It shouldn't be the
council
same
meeting.
night.
No, it shouldn't be.
What about Monday the 15th?
Monday the 15th, sure.
I'll
send
check
it.
with mine too.
Yeah, I don't have anything, that's fine by me. Like
If I can ask,
five-
sorry,
five
I'm gonna
or six
interrupt, I wanna
o'clock.
ask one more question, if we're meeting with this. I've heard it thrown around at both meetings that our bylaw is a mess. If you guys can bring specifics, cause I know the one thing that is missing is definitely the condominium part of it.
Yep.
And that was to be included, but if there's anything else, we need to know that, cause it's never been brought
Did you
forward.
open it?
What's that?
Have you opened it? Because I even opened it.
Yeah.
The bylaws, the building bylaws or whatever that.
Mm-hmm,
It's like 1970s. Like, first thing, let's put it into a form that you can actually search it. It's 80-some pages long, you gotta
Yeah.
flip through one page at a time. So the
It's-
first step would maybe just convert it to.
seemed to me I was more worried about what contents are we missing, cause it is all of them are being redone, ours and the RMs,
Yeah,
yes.
no, so-
Into a current day
Yeah.
format, for sure.
So, well, I mean, again, I don't know, but there is things about promoting building bylaw. There was and a condominium bylaw, was two things that were
Yeah.
on the CDC's list.
Okay,
And what we were going to do is, and even the CDC, I can't even get them to agree to this yet, but I said, provide a draft, not a bylaw, but the draft contents to council so that we could say, yeah, this makes sense, or no, we want it to look like this and this and this, but we have a starting point which moves it along faster because it's easier to start halfway in than it is to start from ground zero.
perfect, and the quicker you guys could get that in, then we can send it
Yeah.
off and have them included.
And
That's all I was looking, cause I thought, what are we missing? Cause we wanna ensure that we've got everything.
So when would we have it looking modern?
The consultants doing that planning district one, as part of their fee that we're paying them includes
Is that?
redoing that, what you've just described. So we could send them an email and ask them,
Skip
where are
every
you?
beat.
Where are you on that? Because we're paying them a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because you could hire a local person to.
That's part of it,
type this.
cause,
Yeah, but my understanding as well, that's an old document, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
my
really old.
understanding as well is they're updating it, which may include some wording and layout and verbiage. And we're, as a community, we're going to pass them all in mass,
Oh, okay.
not one by one.
yeah, and in fairness, we've had a revised one for the last probably 8 years. When I started here, like over 12 years ago, that was my job, is to revise it to current day, and we did. And then all of a sudden it kept getting postponed because, well, now this changed and this changed, and it is, this
What's
whole
happening
bylaw.
tomorrow though? Unless I don't wanna hear what happens.
But that's my point of what I'm, no, can I finish, please?
Yeah.
So my point was being, we were looking at having it all up to date, we had it where we were. The only reason this didn't stop, or this stopped, was because we started with the joint planning district. And that was part of it, is because it's very, very costly to do this all on our own. So this was an opportunity when the province came to us saying, it's an ideal time for all of us to redo our bylaws together with their funding rather than our own. So that's all it is bringing it up to date.
Okay, so I'll send a note out for the 15th.
6 p.m.?
6 p.m., yeah. And then,
Here?
yeah, I guess here.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Good, thanks.
I probably won't be there.
What?
Anyways.
On vacation? You going on vacation? No.
Jason Powell's.
Whole thing, vacation. It's going to work?
It's coming on vacation.
Alrighty, the AllNet website.
So we did get our conversation about our website, and Jen had sent out an email about how we wanted to move forward because this was not in our budget. There was only one member of council that responded, and it was to move forward with it. What does council want to do? It's $5,500 a year pretty much is what it is. There is no money budgeted.
Yeah, I don't know why it didn't go through. 'cause I
Larry did
thought it too.
I didn't call.
I agree.
Regardless, we're here, what do we wanna do? It wasn't budgeted, if anything, and I asked Graham about, how we could get it, it would be a matter of if we're lower in other departments. That's how we'd make it up.
Comment I made, Jen was taking her notes here at the time, was, I said, I don't care as long as the managers are okay with updating it.
Yeah.
If the managers are, you know, we're looking in, whatever, they've all got their training, and then people are complaining, or it's just a out-of-date, nicer looking out-of-date website, then what's the point? So
As
if the
long as it's not
managers-
redone now, and then in 4 years, it looks exactly the same as when we get it,
Yeah.
and then there's no updates to it,
That's where we're at now.
yeah. I'm fine with it.
So we're
I think it
okay
looks-
with proceeding, we'll do a
Yeah.
resolution and find it somewhere in our budget?
Can we find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Board of Revision, issue sheets.
So each year the province comes in and does a reassessment of the properties and also does a reassessment at the end of the year. So what we're looking at is setting our Board of Revision, and it is being set for November 25th. And also we would require a resolution for that and to appoint Jen as the secretary to the Board of Revision.
When's the tax sale this year?
November, do you remember the date right off the top?
Not till.
I don't have my
not
phone
over
here,
the
but I could
summer?
have told you. No,
Oh, okay.
tax sales always fall. Board of Revision is always fall.
Friends of the Sam Waller.
So we've had a request from the museum, requesting someone to be appointed to the Friends of Sam Waller Museum. Mike Doucette was the previous appointee and he's relocated. So they've wanted to appoint one of the following individuals to sit on the board. And when I spoke to Shireen, they had recommended that council pass a resolution for Wayne Huckaluck. I'm not sure whoever's on the museum board, it might be that the museum board will appoint Cam Nagle. Am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, you know, this is I don't miss the meeting, and so I'm kinda, maybe, I'll go back and look at the notes or whatever.
Okay.
But, I don't recall this, and I've missed one yet. So, I mean, Mike Doucette's fine, but I don't remember.
Yeah, he'd moved away, so we're
Yeah,
replacing him
I mean
now.
Wayne, I meant to say.
And I specifically called, because I thought that's not fair for council to have to appoint when we don't know, right?
Yeah, no,
So
yeah,
when I-
either gentlemen they're fine, but I'll have to, yeah.
So Friends of Sam Waller's separate
Yep.
to the museum board?
Yes, it is. So do you want me to hold off on this till the next meeting, or is it
No,
okay to
no,
resolution
I-
to appoint?
Bring it, but just if you could get that.
Who are you appointing, one or the other?
She had recommended, oh my goodness.
What?
She had recommended. Wayne Huckaluck.
Willie.
God.
Wayne is who she's recommending?
Yes. Oh, no.
Okay, payroll and accounts.
Well, hopefully I can speak this one. Resolution for pay period 12 in the amount of 105,252.60, general checks for 831,3217, and EFTs of 56,955.72. We will also require a resolution for checks in conflict to Northern Building Supply in the amount of 2281.97. In looking at some of the larger accounts here, we have 34,126.53, and that's Morgan Fuels for the airport. We're gonna be seeing a lot of those bills this time. Keep in mind, it's okay to see those bills because it means we sell lots too. Receiver General, 456,821, that was your policing. Library grant, oh, sorry, you're gonna see a lot of these are now coming up because our budget is passed, and then you've got library grant of almost 17,000 and recycling of 155. There are also a bunch of smaller grants that you'll see, like to the school and to,
What's
the committee
Ross
for.
Island?
That, sorry, and that's just where I'm getting at, so it'll be, no, that's okay. So it's MBCI, Rawls Island, Arts Council, Fine Arts and Music Festival, Action Center, these are all Moffett Fund grants.
Oh, okay.
So it's an in and an out, it's money we get
Yeah.
and we just cut the checks back.
As I don't even remember talking.
Me neither.
So we would require a resolution for that.
They did good on those Moffett grants.
There were some that didn't get approved, but that's
They got
normal
a
each
lot.
year.
Yeah, they go a lot. I think it's 90 grand or something, I thought, I heard that.
Any questions? Okay. Library audits.
So, as part of our deal, library submits their audit to us. Graham, you didn't bring anything up that was any bone of contention at all? And it's basically just to receive it.
What?
Yeah,
Library? You haven't seen the library audit?
I don't think so.
Jen didn't provide it to you?
If she did, I haven't seen it yet. I maybe it just
Okay, I'll double check.
fell behind. I saw their financials earlier, but
And that's pretty much what this is your,
I doubt they had much change. But I would love to have seen it, yeah.
okay. And we can't really do a whole lot, it's just to say we accept it. There's no resolution, no nothing.
Oh, this is just information?
Yep.
The public disclosure is,
There's only one for,
oh, okay.
yeah.
All right. Oh, God. Asset management.
So part of our gas tax funding agreement requires that we continue to progress in the development of an asset management plan. We're trying to do this internally with some of the other duties that have, come about, and we just are not gonna be able to get this done. We're having a hard time completing it in-house. We're wanting to look at hiring an outside party.
Where are we in this process? Graham?
Pretty close to the beginning. Here on the computer.
Yeah, come on.
So originally the plan was we were going to get Chris McTaggart to take some training and then start developing this plan. The federal gas tax group there, they kind of give us year by year where they think we should be. So this year, I think the goal was to have compiled kind of all the data and start putting it on paper in a manageable format so we can then start planning in future years. So Chris has been taking the courses, and then he got shuffled off to another department, and I just don't think he's had time. I know he's still taking the courses, which should still turn out to be a benefit for us, even if we have to hire a consultant, right? So at the end of the day, we've got to take over whatever this is and use it. So I think the worry all along was that if we didn't have enough internal resources, it's better to develop it ourselves than we'd have something to roll with ourselves if we understood. But at least this way we'll still have somebody who understands it. But yeah, we're at the, we've got a whole bunch of information. I know Chris has been getting Jim to plug away at compiling it, but I don't think we're anywhere near where we need to be at the end of the year.
Would we be 20% done?
Can we get somebody to come in and show us what the asset management program is supposed to look like and where we're at with it and how much work it takes, and just so we have an idea?
Like, whose program is this? This is gas tax, this program, or the
No,
federal?
asset management. Okay, so asset management program is something that federal gas tax is championing, and they're using the funding as leverage to get communities to do it. But at the end of the day, it's for the communities to help with their long-range planning, right? So
Yeah.
you got a listing of all your assets. You know how long you should be using them for.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Every pipe.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering, if we can get Chris to come in and show us, give us a kind of a presentation of what it's supposed to look like, how much work it's gonna be to do, and kind of where we're at with it today.
I know there was examples given. I'm trying to think. Like, was it Selkirk or they're done, and they have theirs online, and they're
That probably
done.
wouldn't hurt, just to.
So what's the
see what's happening.
threshold for like, what's the category of an asset? Like, is it?
Everything.
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 Putting it
It's-
in the
a lot of it is
in the road.
compiling, yeah, a lot of the infrastructure, so knowing how old specific lines are throughout the city. So it becomes a pretty big job,
Okay.
right? You know, I think, you know, assessing road conditions for each little section, deciding how you're gonna break those up, what's underneath them, blah, blah, blah. I think at the end of the day, the reason why this is coming about is you have all this infrastructure and all these little communities, and it's failing because it's 50 years old, it's 100 years old, and none of these communities have had the foresight to tackle it bit by bit. They haven't been saving up the money properly to do it. And so it's going to become a bit of a crisis for everyone. So now they're using that leverage of saying, no, now you have to plan better, you have to be on top of this going forward. Whether that turns out to be what actually happens, I don't know. But for us to keep getting our annual allowance from federal gas tax, we have to keep jumping through these hoops.
Do we?
Yeah, we do,
It's part
yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So there are individuals out there you can call tomorrow and they'll come in and give you
we've been approached by a number of groups that would love to just do it for us. Whether you could get someone to, like, from start to finish and just hand us a product. Now, again, the worry there is, are they gonna give you something that you can do anything with?
Are they
Something
accountants or engineers?
What's that?
Who does this, accountants or engineers?
It's usually a mix of both.
Yeah.
Consulting firms for the most part. A lot of unnamed corporations, it seems like. Probably people that are just providing a service and will probably disappear in the future. That sounds really bad, but it's...
My bananas, it is what it is.
Same kind of groups that provide grant writing services a lot of the time. They'll come in, they'll show you, we'll help you with grants, we'll help you get organized, they set you up, and then they just disappear again, right? So
Whether you get the grant or not.
whether you get the grant or not. So I'm sure they do a good job putting it together. My concern is, can we use it? I hate putting value out there and then not getting anything back. But again, at least at this point, we need to try and keep complying with the
So
bare
would someone
minimum.
from AMN know of, like, call out and they must.
Probably, yeah.
Probably they could recommend.
I had talked to that Dale
Dale
and
Lau.
Ernie at one point, and they seemed somewhat interested, and we have a bit of a relationship with them. Maybe they'd be flexible and.
I would still, I'm gonna go back, I'd still like to see what we're expected to deliver at the end of the day, where we're at, and where we need to be every year to to ensure that we're actually getting what we're supposed to be getting through the gas tax, before I could approve this.
From the asset management plan.
Yeah.
So has the, like, so I'm just reading through this, has the assistant municipal superintendent come in and said, I can't do this?
No, he hasn't, because, for whatever reason, but he should be telling you that at this point, and I'm telling you that.
Okay, no, I'm just wondering
I don't think he
what-
has the time to do this right now. I think he's got enough on his plate, and I think if we lay it on him, he's gonna be overwhelmed,
Okay,
and it won't get done.
okay.
And I just wanna get ahead of this thing before we get to October, November,
Crisis.
December, and we're scrambling, trying to make the year end going, well, we just didn't do it. So yes, sure, I can try and get in touch with somebody. I think I.
No, I guess if Chris has he done have we done any of it?
Again, he's taking the courses right now. So
Yeah.
No, but like, has he started to virtually put
again,
anything into place?
I'm not the one to ask about that.
Well, you'd said he had started with getting some of the infrastructure by getting Jim to
Okay,
do
I
some
know he's
backlink.
plugging away at it. I don't know where he's at. I don't want to start making comments on where he's at.
Well, no, I know, but
Not appropriate.
it's a horrendous project. Like, it's endless. When you start going, if you have no numbers already about what you have, like feet of pipe in the ground and everything else, like, it's not something that's gonna happen overnight.
No,
And I don't expect that anybody would think that
No.
this is a start and end thing, right, Bill? I
No.
think that you would be continuously
It would be,
working on it.
so at some point in there, in the tax gas thing, they're probably saying, well, we wanna see something from you.
so a little bit of history here. When I started, they were starting to kind of roll this out a little bit and saying, we want you to be done X by X years. And then those ranges have just kind of continued to flex along and along because they set a deadline saying, well, we want you to have it in place by whatever, 2019, 2020. And we want you to get all your stuff in by 2018. And then all of a sudden, the province didn't follow up with direction. So it fell back on the province saying, well, we weren't giving you the direction to kind of carry this along. We didn't provide you with any idea of how to proceed. So they've been kind of rolling that out. I think the last time we had something just in November, Dale came out, they were going to help assist with funding options. And by the time he got here, he was saying the funding's all gone. They want to go through the presentation anyway. And it's like,
And the
okay,
same
why?
It sounds like it's obviously important and possibly linked to the gas tax. So is there, like, and I would think that a lot of there's one area that they're gonna have to concentrate more on others. So if you put out feelers out there, this person that you're talking to that might be interested, would it be, because again, I don't know, are we talking about 20,000, 100,000?
It would be $100,000.
But in terms of like, can you do one of our departments?
And I don't think that's how it's gonna work. I think it's gonna be, you've gotta do all the data gathering and then move forward from there, each step of the way, right?
Which we can confirm, which he has started. We'll
Which-
I
which-
agree.
yeah,
Bring him in here,
which he has started.
see where we're at.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine you do roads, sewers, water
Water.
systems,
Garbage.
You do it by area
mobile
usually.
equipment,
Yeah.
building structures. So you look at this building, you say you've got a roof envelope that's got this many years left in it, requires this kind of
Who's
investment.
finished?
Who's finished? Again, I think it was Selkirk or Steinbach, and I
How
can't
did they
remember.
finish? How did they manage? to
I'm
finish?
sure they hired a number of
And extra,
consultants
yeah.
and front.
Or they had extra people internally that they'd hired
Can we
internally.
ask them?
Let's touch base with
Yeah.
them. Touch
How'd you guys do
base
this?
and,
And I know they've done presentations at AMM in the past. Again, I haven't been to any of them. I'm just working off the information I've.
Why reinvent
Picked
the
off
wheel
on
if it's
my way.
already there?
I remember like 20 years ago, Richard King was working on PSAC or PSAC.
Yeah, that's just accounting standards.
Yeah.
That's something.
You know, and then now we got this.
And a lot of it's just hoop jumping, right? So whether this changes the world for us, I don't know.
probably at some point in time, it's gonna come down to, well, you have this amount of assets, so you can borrow this amount of money, because we're not gonna give you money anymore.
Well, somebody made a comment at that AMM convention, or whenever we went, that when you pass your budget, your capital contribution is gonna have to equal your depreciation
Yeah.
schedule. So if we're writing off 500, you better make sure you put 500 in the kitty.
Well, I mean, ideally, yeah.
Ideally.
No, that's not always gonna be the case, right?
But they,
Sometimes.
well, they led you to, it'll be mandatory.
That's a one-sided story, right? I mean, you may have too many assets, too
Well, that
many
was
aged
somebody
assets.
from the province saying that.
Yeah, but
That's the mothership.
looking at things in black and white, right? There's always more to it than that.
I know, but clearly it's coming,
In a
something's
perfect world,
coming.
In a perfect world.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll talk to those communities that are done,
Yeah, sure.
right? Bring Chris in to give us an update and try to show us a completed plan.
And,
Yeah,
and we should see the
Selkirk.
expectations, like what are they expecting every
From the
year?
gas tax.
They're not clear, and that's the problem, is they
Well,
have,
that's good then.
yes and no until somebody comes back, right? So
We're
we've been working with that for
we're
a
on
few
line
years,
one,
trying to
page
flex
two.
that along, but yeah, we don't wanna fall too far behind.
Or even if we work on a 3-year plan to finish it.
I'm not sure if he's here for our next meeting, Chris. I think he's on vacation then.
Maybe he can prepare some notes and I can bring it, that's fine. Whatever, we'll try and give you something if you're interested and then go forward from there, so.
Okay, thank you. Immigration.
Oh, yeah, so, I had that discussion with you, Herb,
Yeah.
about the,
Kelly Heaps Pond.
yeah, so Kelly Heap does wanna come and see us, again, to talk to us about some survey and stuff, so I'll arrange that once I know a date. But, I do have that contact, remember I was mentioning to you about the
Doctor or
doctors?
something,
So I have their phone numbers now, I guess I should pass them on, I'll send the email, I just got it from him just before the meeting.
Yeah,
That
it's
there's-
a doctor and pharmacist from Nigeria. She's working on, yeah,
Yeah.
I know, a little bit about it.
Yeah, so they were told that somebody was gonna contact them, a few months ago and nobody's really reached out to them. I was just, let me pull up my email real quick and I'll tell you when. But I guess the first thing we could do is just call them, I guess. Said, he gave me the name, spoke to him, and he was, in April. Please let me know if you can reach out to him. Yeah, so I'll send you, Randy, and the email to call him, or?
Okay, and I'm calling,
So this is a resident of the PAW already, who's
Okay.
a doctor,
The,
or
okay?
supposedly a
The
doctor.
wife's a doctor.
Okay. And they got some roadblock, I don't know, I mean, just, I just.
Okay, so you're giving me a number to phone
I'll
someone
call
to try
you
and help
about
them
it, I'll
out?
tell you all about this, because I don't wanna,
do you know, Andre, so like the CDC was actively involved in recruiting those other 3 physicians, right? And there's a process to bring in an IMG. Do you know if they happen to talk to Dr. Maven or Scott
no
Hamill
idea,
or
this guy,
anybody?
or,
Yeah,
no, I have no idea. This just came up, like, last week, when I was talking to Kelly, I didn't know anything about it.
because there is a real process for an IMG to get certified, but,
Yeah, and again, I don't know who these guys are, but he said there was 2, one, from what I understood, is that one was a doctor already, and one might have been a doctor in training stuff,
Pharmacist.
or pharmacist, yeah.
So is it
Yeah.
helping them with employment or just while they're here to kind of set them up on how to?
I think they're looking for somebody to touch bases with them and to see if,
What they need.
where they're at in the process of whether they need some help. I
If,
mean,
uh,
I could pass that over to the CDC, but who would I pass it to? Because Kim's not there.
If you want to, you could send it to me.
Yeah.
I'll forward it off to Dr. Babin and Scott Hamel.
Okay,
And they're all in the loop,
yeah,
and then they'll figure out what he has to do.
yeah, and that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to drop the ball.
I would be surprised if they're not aware of each other, truthfully, but we'll see.
Or if even, who knows what they're actually looking for at this point? Like if it's the employment part through the RHA, obviously I wouldn't know and
No.
that would be yours.
Yeah,
But if it's something different,
Well, they may have some educational standards to upgrade or something, but sure, send it off and we'll pass it along.
Yeah, I mean, again, Callie brought it to me, and
Yeah.
I have zero experience with it right now.
we'll figure it out.
IMGs have a tough go.
Okay. What was it on that?
International medical graduate.
Another one of those
Somebody had-
acronyms you know now.
Somebody had to ask. I knew Trevor didn't know what it was.
Like, as soon as you asked, I was like,
Finally.
Bank accounts, we've got a few.
Graham, you can speak to this.
Oh, yes, right. So, as I was writing checks the other day, we had a couple checks going out to minor soccer, minor baseball, the dance, and some other ones. So I guess at one point, these were all outside committees. We were writing them grants, they were having their own insurance, they were running the sports. Amber's been running them for almost 10 years. She's been the sole signer with Wanda as their co-signer. That's crazy.
How's that happen?
I don't know. Loss of interest from people. She said she's been trying to get people involved to take it over, and no one wants to.
Well, I can tell you what happened to minor ball, because I was actually involved in that. There was a minor ball, I was running minor ball back in the day, and then they wanted to create competitive baseball, and I wasn't interested in doing that anymore, and I stepped down and nobody took it over, and I think Wanda ran it for her kids maybe, or like for a group, and then Kelsey Rec kind of taking it over, right? Like there might have been somebody else with Wanda, and that's kind of how that sort of changed there.
So people kind of become the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Providing all
I
these
can see
sources.
that.
The issue becomes that we have all these bank accounts over at TD that we seem
Yeah.
to exclusively control. That's probably not appropriate, so either we draw this part, the other, obviously, the other problem is, sorry, what's
How
that?
much money is
I have no idea because I have no access to these accounts. So the issue becomes, if we're gonna decide this is just us, we should pull them all in, dissolve all these committees, make sure there's engineering, or make sure we have insurance in place to cover them, because right now we're running these events without insurance. And
But
if these guys don't pay for insurance
But
anymore.
minor soccer, minor ball are both run out of Kelsey Rec.
Yeah.
Kelsey Rec
Dance.
doesn't exist though.
Or, sorry,
Recreation.
no, recreation, yeah. I always call it Kelsey Rec still, but out of the wellness center, whatever you
And they
call
can
it.
Recreation, yeah.
Yeah, so minor ball, minor soccer, dance, the summer carnival, gymnastics, is there a gymnastics?
No, they don't even
program
have
anymore?
gymnastics.
Yeah, I think we should just dissolve.
Yeah, because
them
some
all.
of these, yeah, if they're
Get
not,
rid of them.
Or the other option is to reach out to community members and use this as the platform to get more people involved again. And I just don't, again, that limited success, I'm not sure what you're, obviously I didn't.
Yeah,
say.
or you said to get a legal opinion.
I think
Yeah,
that'd be-
I don't know that we want a legal opinion, I put that in there in
Yeah.
case anyone's interested, but I think that would just cost us money and have no point.
I think the easiest would be just to close
Dissolve it,
all
absorb
of that.
it, adjust our insurance, move along.
And then if somebody wants to start a minor ball program, they can just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, come in.
We'll write them a
Come in.
check and they can go, yeah. I guess, yeah, okay, no, if that's the opinion, I mean,
I
obviously.
think that's what they
Roll it
should
into the town.
um,
Do
do. I don't imagine there's big money in it.
Do
What are
any
you
of
gonna
these
do with
groups
all that
still
money, do you
exist?
think?
Well, there's nobody in them. That's, Amber's
Yeah,
just
like we
running
run
them.
the, like recreation runs the summer carnival, they run the dance, they run the Canada Day.
She did say that there was some people that may take over the dance
Can't-
one,
Yeah,
but that was it. So there was not really interest in any of the other ones.
But what is the pod dance fund?
I think they're just putting money away for like a recital, a big event at the end, and then they save it up and then they blow it all at once. Same thing with the Canada Day thing. They put money away, they get some donations from OCN as well, they lump it together.
Well, who's the Canada Day Fund?
Well,
It's
that's just by
it's just a
fireworks.
committee up.
Yeah,
like
that's
they
it,
just
it's
buy-
just a fund, that's it, there's no committee
So we
operating it.
wrote a check to them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
To that fund.
they put it in a bank account, and then I think OCN contributes to that one, they lump it
Yeah.
together,
And then
they
they
go
buy
buy fireworks, and that's it.
Who are they?
That's it. Right now, it's just
Amber.
Amber.
Amber's the thing.
It used to be a committee that
We
did it,
did
and now it's
find a
just
thing for
Amber.
It's just
2,500
Amber.
bucks.
And it's just continued on, and I mean, at some point, maybe we should just,
I as an employee wouldn't want that responsibility or liability with that,
well,
having
yeah.
access to that,
Yeah.
absolutely not.
So,
It's weird.
yeah, well,
That's why he's bringing it, is let's fix it.
But I think active accounts,
But how
and
do
people
you,
are using it.
should
Yeah,
say,
if
like,
the dance is using the dance fund and they want.
Yeah, you know, just,
Canada
if nobody
Day
wants to
is the
take
thing.
these over. And again, maybe you guys had suggestions who wanted to take these over, but I don't think it's appropriate for Amber to run them alone anymore.
okay, so that's what I'm getting at. So we need to have some kind of a policy in place that this can't happen.
And this may have happened due to when KRC kind of folded up,
Yeah.
this kind of got left out. I don't see it until it comes out in a check, and I go, oh, hello.
I don't know, I think it was, like, it's no different, minor hockey had the same issue, right? So minor hockey, everybody and their dog would have a team, then they would create a bank account. They'd open the bank account at the Toronto Dominion when we were there, and then at the end of the year, they would leave, and then we'd have a bank account with the hockey in it. Where then, what we ended up doing is saying, when we moved to I think when they started doing business in West Tova, is we created accounts for each of the team, and it's owned by the Palm Miner, and when you start on, you sign up to be the signer. At the end
For
of the
that
year, you
account.
lose that account, it goes back to minor hockey.
Yeah.
And that's probably what happened here, is that everybody used to do their own thing.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't think our staff though should be,
No.
Signing those checks.
become the sole signer of anything, right?
And she can still run those programs and
Yeah.
just not sign checks anymore. And just be a part of the town again,
Yeah,
so.
But like the Canada Day fun thing, because that's kind of a multiple parties in that, I would think you would wanna leave that, like create some
Yeah,
sort
we
of
can-
governance around it, but you leave it because if you have Oceanic contributing it, and we are, and you have donors and,
well, we could still do it within the confines of our existing system, it's just a
Yeah.
budget line.
yeah,
It's just a budget line.
It's just a budget.
But some people
yeah.
might
that's-
not wanna write a check to the town of Palm. Maybe,
Well,
my thought.
and maybe this is something the CDC could get involved with then instead and take this over, because, again, because there is no
Or destination
incorporation.
marketing.
Well, no, it can't be destination marketing, because there's no incorporation there. So when there's no incorporation, you have a committee, it's the individuals in that committee who are liable, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll take over the Canada Day fund.
Fireworks. Or Michael's.
be careful, because my daughter's looking at some pretty big stuff for next year, holy.
And by all means, like I said, I can talk to Amber again, and we can just close them a bit at a time here and get rid of them,
Yeah,
knowing
so
which
I
ones
mean-
should go.
Doesn't the bank have anything in there saying, you know, this account
Well,
has
they
been
should
unactive?
But it's not inactive though, because they were still writing checks and still receiving money.
It's just
They're
Amber
still,
writing that
they're
check.
still operating.
Okay.
Like they still get fees from the soccer players, the parents pay the
Yeah.
parents fees, and then they write checks.
But at
Yeah,
the
they buy
bank-
jerseys and all that kind
So
of
at the
stuff.
bank, it's still Amber and whoever, like the two signers?
Well, I think it's Amber and Wanda right now, and Wanda doesn't even work here anymore, so
Okay.
those are our two signees. I don't think she can write a check right now.
Crazy.
Okay.
Was it two to sign?
I would say wind them into the town,
Okay.
okay?
And I mean, if any of them kind of come up as a problem, I'll bring it back and
Yeah.
we can discuss it again, but.
I don't think it will.
Yeah, just-
Okay, fuel discount policy,
So at one point, we had someone approach us as it relates to buying bulk fuel at the airport. And they were asked to come up, the airport manager and Jen worked on providing a policy. So attached is a draft policy, but their policy is based on previous year's fuel sales. They're wanting to give a deal or a discount on those based on usage. I know we did get a request from someone else that was wanting to receive a discount. They would not comply with this policy because they wouldn't be using enough fuel to obtain a discount.
Didn't we talk about that before? And wasn't it like 0.05 cents per liter, no matter who?
It was never no matter who.
Oh,
It was based on, it was only the big users. That's why
Oh,
accounts come
okay.
up or ask for a policy to be, because there was never a policy, period.
So what's the, like, what's our airport manager, what's his? Is this what he's recommending?
Yep,
Go with it.
I mean, he's the airport manager, he deals with,
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was just Jen there had come up, I noticed that he was.
No, no worries.
Okay.
they come up with-
Yeah, I mean, if that's what, he's the airport manager, if that's what he knows,
and it was basically discounts to those with volume, and there's not many,
yeah,
like, it's,
Oh,
we're
okay.
making our money
So
off the
just
ones
a
with
lot
volume,
here.
period.
yeah,
Yeah,
That's
okay.
why we're getting the discount.
yeah.
So it'll be a
Go with
resolution.
that,
Yeah.
I-
Looks good.
Okay, we have some in-camera things.
So resolve that we now move ourselves into the in-camera portion of the committee of the whole with Mayor Jakes in the chair to discuss matters requiring our attention.